Department of Arts and Culture was coming up with all sorts of cool stuff for the community, from bell ringing outside, which we'll talk about, to police officers doing story time. So the first question I want to ask is, what did it look like for both of you when COVID closures started happening? Because I think that it's safe to say that every state government has acted differently around this. And there was not a ton of information until, at least for me on my end, suddenly there was. And then things started closing very, very quickly.
Sure. So just to go back to the first thing about all the ideas, just putting it out there that everything that we've done has been a collaboration between one organization or someone's idea that they wanted to implement. So like what we've been trying to do is try to bring in people's ideas, let them have their platform, and kind of help them make stuff happen that they wanted to happen. So like the police, when we found out they were doing the story time, we thought, wow, fantastic, let's feature that. And the bell ringing, that was actually a suggestion from the mayor himself. He had seen it from another town, so we put our spin on it. And so yeah, and that's what we've been trying to do, is to kind of uplift the ideas that people are having and give platforms.
Sure. Julie and Alicia, I would love to hear a little bit more about what it was like for both of you initially when things started happening. Just because I know so many folks, especially in the arts, were caught very off guard.
Well, I think first and foremost, uncertainty, fear.
Yes.
Which I think kind of everyone is feeling that. For me personally, my younger son, both my sons are in college for music, but my younger son is in Boston. And, because he's in music, there are kids from all over the world at his school. And so there was a tremendous amount of, fear of, oh my gosh, he's, in a very close environment with, a lot of people, which is wonderful for collaboration and connection in the arts, but not so much with the pandemic. So, fear for my family. And luckily we were able to go get him. And, his school kind of announced right around the same time when different schools were, saying, okay, go on spring break. We're not sure. His school just kind of went, closing. So it was like, come get him, get all his stuff, get him out. And, luckily, we've been able to we're very fortunate. We've been able to just kind of hunker down here, but not knowing what was going to happen. So it was scary, really, really scary.
Yeah. Alicia, what about you?
If we're talking department-wise, I would say that, given everything that had been going on, we were all watching the news and we saw what was happening everywhere else. And I feel like we were kind of in that state of, well, I don't know. Is it now our turn? Like, is something happening now? And, without having the cues from, like government, like the top tiers of our American government, to say, oh, maybe you should be a little more concerned than you are. We were just going our day-to-day planning activities. I was literally continuing to plan the summer concert series and farmers markets and fireworks stuff up until the day that we were all sent home. So it's like one day you're doing everything that you are you've been continuously been planning for, and then the next day you find yourself home now having to rethink every single thing that you've been planning
Yeah, and I do want to say, so Hampton Mayor Kurt Lang, I noticed, was one of the most proactive when it came to closing down city meetings and official business. But it sounds like before that, so I've talked to in the past weeks, I've talked to, for instance, teachers who found out that their schools were closing not because they got a call, but they saw it on the evening news and they thought, oh my gosh, I can't go back into my building and get my computer. So were the discussions very quick for the department?
I think the discussions happened quickly amongst everyone.
Yeah.
Like like I said, it was just like the week of, we were still planning everything, and then a few days later, I find myself in emergency planning meetings about how to get the word out quickly and effectively with our Hamden residents. And yes, I I think Kurt has been on top of all of that, and you genuinely see that he cares, and he wants people to be okay, and he wants people to be safe, and so that's kind of been um, a big pivot of ours, is trying to help like, get those messages out effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, Julie, feel free to
Well, I was
hop in,
just going to
please.
say, I unlike it sounds like what other folks that you've talked to, the mayor has been very good about communicating kind of what's going on um, throughout town. They've had to sanitize the government center and making sure that either he or other people on his staff are um, letting town employees know what's going on.
So, I want to talk, Alicia, about one thing that you brought up, which is getting the word out and using artists to get the word out specifically. So, I'm wondering if we can talk a little about the Hamden Has Heart initiative, which has recently launched. And I think, as someone who loves the arts, has a soft spot for like really good PSAs. I got really excited about this. So can you tell listeners about it?
Yes. Okay, so going back to the idea of borrowing ideas from other places, I've been following the Boston.gov website, and I'm pretty amazed at everything that they have going on for them. So, to be honest, I borrowed that whole initiative from Boston. So Boston has their Share the Care program, and essentially that's what they're doing, is they're asking the creative community, they're asking residents, they're asking anybody who would like to participate to make an image, draw, like draw a picture, write a poem, write a story, and share it with the theme of uplifting and honoring our frontline uh, frontline workers, essential workers, medical professionals, all of that. And then what's awesome about it is that at the end, or like in a year or so, they're going to put it all on display in a big group public show. But also now, to add another element to it, I thought, well, why not take another idea that we've had? Do you know the sketchbook project? So this hasn't been launched yet.
I do, but if you'd like to explain it to folks who don't.
Yeah. So I haven't made the form just yet, but that's what I'm working on. So combined with the Hamden Has Heart program, we are collaborating with the Hamden Public Library, and we're going to do our own Hamden historic sketchbook project. And the first volume, we're going to ask people to record their pandemic experiences. So for people unfamiliar with the sketchbook project, it's essentially a program in which you request a blank sketchbook. They send it to you, you fill it out however you'd like, and you get a certain amount of time to do it. And when you're done, you send it back. It gets cataloged in a library, and people can check it out like an actual book. So it's an idea that I've been fascinated by for a while, since I saw it at the Brooklyn Museum, I believe, a few years ago, and I've been wanting to do it here. And we thought, why not do it now? This would be the perfect time to do it. So we're actually asking Hamden to write our own town history. And what I'm hoping to do is, like in a year or so, hopefully, everything will be done. We can combine that with the Hamden Has Heart and have a full pandemic historical town record.
And have you been hearing from folks already? So I know it's very early. I think Hamden Has Heart was announced like a week ago. So it's very, very early
Yeah.
on, maybe 2 weeks ago. Time is relative. It was made up before this, but now it's really made up. Um, have you been hearing from people about it?
I've gotten a few submissions so far. I still have to put it out there more. I have to advertise it a little bit more and start injecting it into other conversations with the link. But I have had a few submissions so far.
And in those submissions, what have the sort of discussions or narratives around frontline workers looked like?
They've just been images. I didn't look at them yet, Lucy.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, you're very busy, so that's actually one thing that I want to get into. And this actually feels like a segue into what I found is a highly contested argument that while arts workers may not be essential workers in the same way that certainly hospital workers, doctors and nurses, and also the folks doing administrative and maintenance tasks in hospitals, grocery workers, and like other folks who are really putting their bodies literally on the front lines. I don't want to say that the arts are essential in that sense, but I have heard from a number of people, both in and outside the arts, that they've really been leaning on streaming music, streaming movies, sketching, making art with their kids, especially. So, one thing that I do want to talk about, Alicia, that you brought up, is a call that's been made to defund the department. I want to talk about the misunderstandings that may be coming around that, and then specifically why both of you feel that the arts are essential always and especially in this time.
So real quickly, because I want Julie to field this one as well. It's been very unsettling to see people put out public calls to defund any kind of arts programs, and I understand that towns have financial issues. Towns have budgets that they need to slim down or make more realistic. But I mean, realistically, the arts budgets are the smallest budgets of anything. And while you can't measure tangibly, like what the arts can do, like there's no limit as to how the arts rehab your soul, how the arts connect people as a language, how the arts create bridges of innovation between different communities. So like I've been posting, in a time in which the most major public and private arts organizations feel so deeply that we need to continue allowing people to connect through the arts, that they've made their content free for consumption. It's like, how can you say no? These are not vital things. These are not vital programs. These are not vital services, when you've got such big organizations saying they are, and here I'm giving them to you for free.
Julie, I want you to jump in as someone who I have literally done some bad shimmying on my end, but besides you, to some amazing concerts in Hamden, and so I want you to jump in because I know that you can speak to the transformative power of the arts.
I really can, and I just to echo a lot of the stuff that Alicia is saying. The whole purpose about the arts and the whole reason for the arts is it connects us, and it connects us not only to each other, it also connects us to ourselves. And so this notion that as I think has been kind of, the best way I can put it is, I think there's this kind of reductive argument that happens around anytime when money gets tight, of like, oh, looking at where can we cut. And the first quote you hear almost always is, well, yeah, we love the arts and everything, but it's a luxury that we can't afford anymore. And I, you know, I get worked up because I think to call it a luxury is really a sign of um, privilege and a sign of entitlement, because you can look at, and I would disagree with one thing Alicia said in the best way, which is, you can't measure it. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You actually can measure it. You can look at, if you want to, take the human emotion out of it, take all of the spiritual aspect out of it, you can actually measure it. You can look at the differences in kids' test scores. You can look at, how studying music actually helps kids understand math better, because so much of music is actually mathematical. You can look at recidivism rates in prisons. When they have arts programs, you can look at the children with emotional distress. I mean, I can go on and on and on. There are measurable success stories that you can look at with the arts. But more than anything, I would say, there's that. You can look at the economic impact. The arts are an economic driver. People talk about, especially right now in New Haven, kind of the renaissance that's happening of, just new things springing up all over the place. Well, why is that happening? Because when you have arts, when you have a vibrant arts community, it expands. It's expansive. It's not reductive, because you can just keep creating off of. Look at what we're doing. I realize I'm interrupting myself, but we're stealing, and that's the best thing about the arts, is you look at what somebody else is doing and a new idea spins off. That's what I mean about it being expansive. But really, the thing that I feel the single most passionate about is that public access to the arts is not a luxury. It is a lifeline. And for the people who don't have the ability or the luxury to, purchase an instrument or pay for dance lessons or pay for music lessons, and when they have public access to that, when they don't have to pay for it, and they're not worrying about, am I going to buy food or am I going to pay for dance lessons? Well, we all know what the answer is going to be. You're going to buy food. So when you create public access, you level that playing field. And when we take that away, we're not just taking away leisure or, a luxury. You're taking away that something that for many people is, like I said, a lifeline. And not to keep going on and on and on, but, I live with that. It's not just, oh, I think this. I know this for a fact. My husband's a Cuban refugee. He came to this country at 15 years old, and the thing that he will say saved him is the arts. He happens to be now a successful artist. Where he would be if he didn't have that, I don't know. But I do know that it is so much more than a luxury.
Well, that feels like a very good transition into some of the programming. So, and Julie, thank you. I was like, yes, girl, preach, like, keep going. This is my gospel. So, I like this. But before we do, I want to remind listeners or viewers, more likely, that this is Arts Respond, Artists Respond / not yet titled show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. I am Lucy Gellman, and I am here with Alicia Martindale and Julie Smith, and we are talking about the Hamden Department of Arts and Culture. So, Julie and Alicia, one thing that Julie you just mentioned in the arts being a lifeline is I have been consistently impressed with how affordable, sort of in the BC or before COVID days, how affordable access to arts programming in Hamden has been, especially the Saturday concert series and the free summer concerts. And what does that look like when all of a sudden you have to transition online? And this is of course understanding that we may be back to some standard of normalcy in the summer, but we just don't know yet.
That's a great question. uh, and really, I'd have to go with the latter part of your statement of we don't know yet. Um, and that is one of the things that Alicia and I have been working feverishly on during this time period is what does the municipal arts landscape look like right now? And what we've been doing is reaching out to area arts organizations. We've actually had a lot of conversations with the Greater New Haven Arts Council. And a huge resource that I really want to call out is Americans for the Arts, their website, which has just phenomenal resources. And we're just kind of trying to look at what are other places doing. We've been brainstorming a lot of our own ideas, and I think we've got some really killer ideas of stuff that we want to try. Because, on the other hand, and I'm certainly in no way suggesting like, hey, isn't this a great time? It's not. But what it is a really interesting time where I feel like the universe is sort of saying, hey, it's time to rethink things. It's time to reimagine. The world is not going to look the same. And in some ways, that's okay. Because that's what the arts are about, is being adaptive. So that's what we're looking to do, is to adapt. How do we adapt to this new reality? What does this mean? What do people need? And that's what we're really looking to do, is to reach out to our community, to our residents, to our resident artists, arts organizations, businesses. What do you need? How can we help bring all the different things that the arts bring to you: solace, humor, entertainment, release. How can we help do this in this new reality? So yeah, that's kind of a really long answer to your question and a really long way of saying, I don't really know yet, but I'm kind of excited to see what comes out of it.
Alicia, I would love for you to talk about some of the strategic partnerships that are maybe some of our listeners live in Hamden, and so they already know about the great work that's going on, but maybe they don't. So I would love to hear a bit from you about the work that you've already been jumping into.
So yeah, definitely. So like Julie says, that we don't really want to call this an opportunity, but it kind of has been an opportunity. With concerts, most likely not going to happen. We have had the chance to really think about what is the Hamden Department of Arts and Culture and what purpose do we serve. There are multiple arts groups in Hamden, which is fantastic. Being the actual Department of Arts, we've kind of come to the conclusion finally that we are the community cultural bridge between all of them. It's not our job to make all these brand new programs or to bring all this entertainment to the town. Our job is to find what is already happening and what is working in the town, in the local areas, and bring it together to enhance it between this part of Hamden and this part of Hamden. How do we find the people who are actually doing those things and uplift them, so this way here they can uplift the communities with them? So I personally, I've been watching all the Facebook comments. I've been, reading what people are saying, taking down the themes of their conversations, kind of collecting the tone of their, criticisms. And personally, what I know I can do is to encourage people to kind of not step up, but like if someone has the idea, empower them to make it happen, and we will be the people to help connect you with other people that can make it happen. So yeah, so
Um,
for me it's all about making participatory programming and opportunities more available and bringing them to the forefront.
and I would love to know, so I would love to know what some of those conversations have looked like with community members, but also folks who are interested in arts activities. So I know that with Mayor Kurt Lang, you've worked on a communal bell ringing, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that.
um Yeah, no, I forget which town he mentioned he saw it in, but it's something that's been catching on between different communities and different towns, and some people are putting different spins on it. And in the beginning, when we all started to have to stay home, and it didn't really hit us yet that we were all in quarantine and this was going to be a long process. Um, it was a cute idea. It was a cute, oh, hey, let's do something. But then I feel like watching people's comments and watching what people are saying and just like watching the videos that they post, I feel like it really did become something that people looked forward to because it was something that they could participate in, and it was something that they could do with each other, but from safe distances. Going out at 8 o'clock at night, and you have a bell, but then in the darkness, hearing like five other bells, you knew that you were not alone. Um, and it's something that you could look forward to know that we're all collectively going through um, what is a traumatic experience together.
Yeah, Julie, would you like to add to that?
Well, I think, yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who's in New York. Um, I was talking to him today, and he was talking about they're doing a similar thing in New York at 7 o'clock at night. And he said people just go outside, either on the street or on their balconies or whatnot. And he said you can every night it gets louder and louder, and they're just screaming, but not screaming in anger, but yelling, and it's more of a show of support for the first line workers. But he said, people are banging pots and pans there. He said, but what's amazing about it is that it's not just sort of, it is showing support to the workers out there, especially the healthcare workers and the frontline workers, but that it's also become sort of this communal sense of release and knowing like, hey, we're all in this together. And it kind of brings back to that whole idea of the arts connecting us. And yeah, sure, it sounds like really screaming is arts. Well, it is. It's because it's a release. It's a release of emotion. It's a release of um, tension, fear, all of the stuff that people are feeling right now. And that is, right there, that is the meaning of the art. So people are still finding ways, I think, to connect. And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. And I did want to mention, I think the idea of the original idea of the barbaric yawp was Whitman. Was it? I think it was Whitman. And so yes, I mean that is literally poetry. The idea of going outside and like screaming about something, or like banging. I've heard from friends who are also in New York. I've heard that some folks like bang on pots and pans. They scream. Um, so I have more questions about what programming might look like depending on how the pandemic and how quarantine continues. But I'm also aware that Hamden and the department, which is both of you, it's a teeny tiny department.
You're looking at the department.
That's right. Is doing information collection. And Julie, I know you mentioned the Americans for the Arts as well. So I do think this is a powerful, if unexpected, time for arts organizations and arts departments to be figuring out, okay, how does our public, broadly construed, interact with the arts, and what are they getting from the arts, and how are they using the arts? So how are you looking at some of that information right now, and especially how folks are using the arts as a coping mechanism?
So I created a Google form, and I've been sending it out to people in both large email blasts and putting it online wherever I can, just to collect information on how people are using the arts to cope right now. But in not just cope, but like how are people using the arts in any form, and why, and what are they getting from it? And literally, like not every answer, but the majority of the answers are saying we're doing this so that we can have connection with other people, so we're not feeling alone and we're not isolated. And I'm getting answers like it keeps me sane from thinking about anything else that I'm seeing on the news. What else? People are yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and who is the we in this case? Only because I know a number of venues have been doing either free or very low cost online programming. And I will say, like, virtual yoga, didn't ever think it was something that would save my life. And now I'm a total convert. So
what was your question?
What are you also, who is the we? Are you seeing individuals? Are you seeing venues?
Most of the answers I believe I'm getting are from individuals because it's an anonymous survey, but I should look into bigger venues, huh?
And Julie, do you want to hop in as well?
Yeah, I think just to kind of follow up on what Alicia's saying is we're trying to talk to as many people as we can, and again, reaching out to not just people in Hamden, but talking to local arts organizations saying, what are people saying to you? Because I think, it's very helpful. Obviously, our focus is going to be on our residents and how do we meet their needs, but, also talking to local organizations, we're getting ideas of, questions we might not think to ask, or finding also content that we can share with people. And that's one of the things that we've been doing, is just kind of pumping out content of like, hey, here's something interesting you might want to read about or listen to or try out. And it's been, I think it's meeting with appreciation, and people I think are looking for any opportunity to connect. So yeah.
And then Alicia, as far as programming, and Julie, please feel free to jump in as well. What do some possible online programming initiatives look like going forward?
So that's where we really want to hear from residents and people. Just this morning, I was in one of the town forums, and we were talking about how to create a central hub of information and sharing about local farms, because we realize that all these local farms are still offering, some things in limited supply and quantity, but we're only seeing it, in little bits and pieces from the individual farms themselves. So we're thinking, how do we make something in which everybody can start to input what they've seen or what they know about local farms? So when I think of programming, I'm thinking more so not necessarily of how to entertain people or programs to keep people busy. I'm thinking more so collectively how to get people involved. So any opportunity to get people excited to collaborate together, especially with people that they don't normally or would not normally collaborate with. That's what I'm looking for. Those are the opportunities that I'm looking to cultivate.
And have you heard from some people? I know that I have heard this, like, oh, I didn't think artists did fill in the blank. So maybe that's mutual aid work, or maybe that's working with farmers. So people maybe still have a kind of a narrow idea of what arts and culture constitutes.
Yeah.
You're nodding, so.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm nodding because I think, that has been part of our conversation too, is, um, arts and sort of then looking at the culture side. It's not that they're two separate things, but, um, one of the things that we've been talking about doing, and I don't want to give away our ideas, but is, well, I kind of came up, it might be a hokey name, but like, what's cooking Hamden? Because we have, all these different, I can see Alicia's laughing at me.
It's not hokey. It's great.
But, I mean, one of the cool things about Hamden is it is so incredibly diverse. We have Shepherd Glen School that has 26 different languages spoken in it. So, I mean, there are tons of different cultures. And one of the things, like the arts, that really connects us is, hello, food. Who doesn't love food? So, the idea of maybe hosting some sort of, cooking classes, or, let's discover about other people's heritage and their culture through their food. And it's something people can do from their homes. Maybe, hopefully in the future, it's something we can do collectively, but, until that point, that's just kind of one of the things. Like I said, we've been brainstorming, but for the most part, going back to what Alicia was saying, I think we really have sort of crystallized the idea that our role, is as facilitators, is providing a platform. We're kind of in a unique position in that, we're a municipal arts organization. So our role is to support the town, and support its residents, but also to look at, how do we promote the town? And instead of us creating all kinds of content, it's already out there. There are already people out there doing things that are 10,000 times more creative than we're going to come up with. So, our role is to find them and give them whatever platform we can to connect them with other people in the town. So by doing that, we're kind of reinvesting in the town itself, as opposed to creating more programming that is going to compete with them. We don't need to do that. It's already there.
Yeah. And it keeps bringing me back to the parable, or the story of the Dead Sea and the River Jordan. Like the Dead Sea is full of stagnant water that doesn't move, and nothing can grow, nothing can live in it, whereas the River Jordan flows from here to there, and it brings life from one end to the other. It mixes so much together, and same idea is that we're not stagnant. Hamden is not a stagnant place, and the more that we can bring people in, to mix in with the programming or the artists or the residents that we already have, and the more that we can send our own people out into the communities outside of Hamden, the more we can mix and bring new innovation, new ideas, new programs in and out.
So, one question I want to ask first, I want to remind either listeners or viewers that this is WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. I am Lucy Gellman, and I am here with Alicia Martindale and Julie Smith, and we are talking Hamden Department of Arts and Culture and how the arts feed our souls and keep us sane during this insane sort of time in which the world is turned on its head. One question that I wanted to ask both of you is, so we've established that there's maybe no going back to normal as we perceived it. And Alicia, you used the word opportunity earlier. And I want to look at that because I think that in some ways, a lot of what was happening in the arts nationally maybe wasn't working. There were gig workers or freelance workers who were really living on those razor thin margins of being okay and not being okay and surviving from paycheck to paycheck. So I'd like to know from both of you some things that you are hoping to take out of this. So both to take out of this on the local municipal level, but also shifts that maybe you're hoping to see on the national level in the arts coming out of this. And that's with the full understanding that a recovery, as we understand it, might be anything from 2 to 4 years.
Okay, well, I didn't hear 2 to 4 years, and now I'm scared. um,
I can
so
say weeks or like
yeah,
yeah.
weeks. It might be a little less scary. Okay, so the question is, what are we hoping to come out of all of it?
I think also like things that maybe you will be taking away locally, but also shifts that perhaps you hope to see on the national level in the arts specifically.
I personally,
Oh, go ahead.
I really just want people to walk away from this experience with the better understanding of how they got by using arts. Like I want them to understand that, you know, you might have entertained yourself with movies, but how did you keep yourself how did you keep your soul alive when you couldn't look directly in the eyes of the people that you love when you said I love you? You know, it's like you watched movies about it, about people who could. You read books about people who could be doing that. I just want people to have a better understanding and have a moment of awareness about how the arts fed, I don't know, fed their, I keep saying soul, but like, I don't know, how did the arts feed you? So
Julie, I also I want to make sure that your voice is in there. Yeah, half of me is just going to turn off my camera and ugly cry, but because that was beautiful and
it was. I love you, Leash, because we can see each other right now. I mean, I totally agree with what Alicia said. I think what has been kind of amazing about this whole thing, and I know I don't have to keep saying this, but I just don't want to diminish in any way the people who've been sick, the lives that we've lost, and the people who are, that this whole thing has been a travesty for. And I know that that is a lot of people. And but I also think what it has done is allowed us to see what's necessary and what's not. And to Alicia's point, this is where I think the arts is necessary because it's been doing exactly that. I don't think it's coincidental that there's a huge uptick in people reading poetry. I don't think it's coincidental that people are turning to things that are more introspective. Um, and I think that's because a situation like this sort of tests you on a really different level. And you're starting to see the things that are essential and that are necessary and the stuff that's not. Um, and, don't get me wrong, I love entertainment as much as the next person does, obviously. But I've found myself that I'm reading stuff that I kind of always felt like, oh God, I can't, that's so heavy. Um, but it's stuff that I need right now because so much of the noise has been turned down. And when the noise is turned down, what's left is you're kind of sitting there with yourself, and it allows you to um, start thinking about things in a very different way. And that's what I hope we keep, if at all possible.
Yeah. Well, my final question for both of you is I'm so curious how the arts are feeding both of you right now. Alicia, I know you had mentioned the soup, and I totally consider culinary arts as part of the arts. So, but I would love to hear everything from literature to food to, yes, Tiger King counts, although it's an extremely problematic show, and well, we don't have time to talk about that. That's another episode, but
Yeah. So number one, quick, just to mention, I I I just got choked up, like, thinking about this experience right now. We're all talking about how are we staying connected, and here we are on a video call, you know, but still after like not being able to see people for so long. It's like this is what I'm talking about. It's like we're it's not the same, but we're all still trying so hard, like, to stay together. Um, number one. Number two. um, so what have I been occupying my attention with? I think that I'm the kind of person when stuff happens or I'm overwhelmed with something, I kind of just dive into work stuff. So I've been trying to use um, the opportunities that I have for work, like designing stuff or creating, talking to people about art stuff, to kind of keep me, um, what's the word? Not diverted, but like to keep me, I don't know. And also Instagram and design Instagrams and Pinterest and um, painting and drawing. Oh, drawing. I love my iPad Pro and I draw on it a lot.
and you're also a professional photographer. Have you been
Oh yeah.
making art, like making photography during this time?
Um, what did I? Oh, I haven't gone out too much. I know that I should be out documenting a lot more, but there's also I don't really want to be out right now, and it's like it's it's like a pull. It's like I know that I should be out there documenting, empty shelves, or I should be, like I admire the portraits project, and I should be doing things like that. But also, it's like I don't want to. I don't want to go out. But I went out yesterday and I took some shots of the Hamden Food Bank donation, and I tried to get a little story from that, and so yeah.
Julie, what about you? I would love to hear how you're using art to stay sane during this time.
Well, unlike Alicia, I can't draw to save my life. So I am I am a wonderful audience member. Um, and so as I said earlier, I am really lucky that I live with two ridiculously talented musicians, my sons. So I get to hear them play a lot. And my younger son is studying classical voice. So that's been really awesome getting to hear him singing. So listening to a lot of music. And actually, as I said, I've been reading a lot of poetry, which is something I don't normally, not that I love poetry, but I don't tend to read a lot of poetry. But just something about that feels right now because, eh, that kind of intensive um, diving into something is feels right now. So I've been reading a lot of poetry. I've been reading a lot, and I am addicted to crossword puzzles. So I've been doing a lot of crossword puzzles. But also truly, in some ways, working harder than ever because I do feel so passionately um, about the arts. And I will say this call to defund the arts has, I've said this to Alicia about 1,000 times now, it has really lit a fire in me that is really strong. So I have been doing tremendous amounts of research, and just looking at every possible avenue I can to kind of think about how can we reshape the conversation also about arts here and make sure that we're really serving the community that we need to be serving. And I just, I love the concerts. I think they're so much fun, and it's so great that we get to bring that many people together. And over the past couple of years, we've been trying out um, some different genres of music to really try to meet our residents and say, hey, not maybe not everybody loves doo-wop music. I like doo-wop music, but trying to bring in different stuff that's going to appeal to a wider audience. So, I mean, I love the concerts, love them, but I think it's a really good opportunity to look at how can we be, they're great, but they're 4 nights a year in July. And while we do a lot of other programming too, I just think looking at where can we expand and where can we grow in
Yeah.
our in what we do.
What can we cultivate now?
Yes.
Well, on that note, I want to thank both of you so much for partaking in this weird Zoom world with me. And Harry Droz, I want to thank you. Harry is a true gem and an audio artist, an artist with audio and technology in ways that I can't even begin to do. So I want to thank him. He's been the genius behind the scenes here, and none of this would be possible without him. So thank you. Thank you, Harry. And I've been talking to Alicia Martindale and Julie Smith of the Hamden Department of Arts and Culture. They are the entire Department of Arts and Culture. So please be kind to them and don't take their funding away. This has been WNHH Arts Respond. You can catch more episodes hopefully next week. Thanks so much to both of you. And Harry, you're awesome. Thank you.